Welcome to the Been There, Sold That podcast, where you can take away sales and business tips to grow your business efficiently, effectively, and profitably. Take it away, Brianna Henley and Phil Whitebloom.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
Great. How are you, Brianna?
I'm doing great, Phil.
Hey, I see somebody else here with us.
We do. We have our first guest, Honoree Corder, with us today.
Wow.
Hi.
Who's
Hi,
that?
Honoree.
Who's Honoree?
Who's Honoree? Well, Honoree is actually one of my mentors, and we wanted to have her on here so she could talk a little bit about what she does and how she helps people. So, do you know, Phil? You know Honoree, right?
Quite well. Quite
Okay,
well.
Good.
So, for those of you who listen to us regularly, Honoree will fit right in.
Yes.
And so then the laughing gets going. It's just normal.
And off we go.
But we have fun, but we also do lots of business together and we help each other. And Honoree is not only Brianna's mentor, but she's also mine and she's my coach. And we're going to get into that a bit. And Honoree, it's just wonderful to have you here. And we're going to have your whole write-up and everything associated with this podcast when we publish it. And we'll talk about everything that you've done and everything you're doing. It's going to be wonderful. And for our listeners, and when it gets on YouTube for our viewers also, we would really like for you to share with everyone how writing a book will help their business and will help them. And it's not just writing the book, but it's doing it right or doing it correctly. No, not to use the pun. So welcome.
Thank you.
And what do you tell people when you first meet them and they say, well, I want to write a book? What do you say to them, especially if it's for their business or about what they do?
I encourage them because I think writing, I know that writing a book can be an incredible life-changing, game-changing, business-changing tool. And it can do so many magical things for someone's business if they do it well. And you really already touched on that, which I commend you for pointing that out, because there is a lot of advice out there and much of it is good. Some of it, however, encourages people to just write and publish your book in 30 days and to source help or to not source help in ways that are going to be ineffective for getting the maximum results from your book.
Yeah. And one of the keys that I learned from you, and it's a very large key chain, by the way, there's lots of keys that I've learned from Honoree on that chain, and is that it's not so simple to even create a title for your book. And you talk about having a mission for your book. What is the book? Everybody's got great ideas. I should write a book about this or write a book about that, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a successful book. So if you could talk for a minute about that and talk about maybe even about, best-selling books. Is a best-selling book really always a good book?
Oh gosh, you're giving me you're asking me so many questions, Phil. So let's see if I can unpack them one at a time. So the first question was, what do you want the book to do for you? In essence, what is the job of the book for you, the author? What will the book be doing for you once it is published? And so then the other side of that coin, if I may, with the money reference, right? Because we're going to do it so that we can make an impact and an income. And so the other side of that coin is, what is the job of the book for the reader? Because I find, and so this factors into the title of the book, I find that sometimes a book title is fantastic. And I read it with the expectation that the book is going to be about what the title is, which is a hint. The book's title should be what the book is about. And incidentally, we won't have a lot of time for this, but the subtitle is what the reader receives in exchange for the time and the money that they give for the book. So if the book title is what the book is about, then you have to meet that promise on the inside of the book. So the book has to work for the author. It needs to earn royalties, bring new customers or clients to the business. That's what's in it for the author. On the other side of that coin, the book needs to take the reader through a process that allows them to avoid pain or gain pleasure or both. So I'll use You Must Write a Book, which is my book, the first in the book business series, as an example of that because it's really the easiest one for me. I want you to write a book. I want you, the author, the aspiring author, to feel the confidence and have a process for writing a book and getting through to the completion of that, because having a book is going to be that incredible exponential multiplier in your business. What I don't want you to do is write a crappy book. So I want you to gain the pleasure of writing a book, and I want you to avoid the pain of making many amateur mistakes that authors can make along the journey. So that's the job of the book. The job of the book is to take the author on this journey of, I want to be an author too. I have the confidence to write, publish, and market and begin to monetize my book for my business.
Yeah, that's great. For everybody, Honoree has sold over 4.5 million of her own books. And I say it like that because I don't know if you, Honoree, have the statistic, but it would certainly be an interesting one to compile, which would be the books that you impacted. In other words, whether you manage the entire process as part of your business, or you worked with a segment of it from the ghostwriting or wherever, or just the people that you coached, like myself. My first book, as of this recording today, is going to be coming out very soon. And I have people who have already pre-ordered the book and they haven't even seen it or even asked about it. And people talk about the book all the time as I'm networking all over. And this was because, not just because I'm writing the book, because the way I talk about the book, which I learned from you. So it really does make a great difference. So as you're listening to this, listen carefully to what Honoree is saying, because it's just not because she coaches people on how to write books or she's successful writing them, but she's got these experiences that cross over all this stuff. So yes, anybody could write a book, but writing a book well and to accomplish something, it's like any other skill, whether it's sports or anything else. You got to practice, and listen from those who know what they've done before that made them successful. Right.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. So it's wonderful. Brianna, what question do you have for Honoree?
Well, I would love to hear the story about how you got started writing your first book, how all of that came about.
Well,
I constantly have it running in my head, and I'd love to hear it again.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So I was at a conference, not a writer's conference, just a personal growth conference, and Mark Victor Hansen was on the stage. And of course, we know Mark Victor Hansen is the co-creator with Jack Canfield of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series, the best-selling series ever created. And I was in the back where the nerds sit taking notes during the conference. And he came to the back, as speakers will do on occasion. And he came back and he said, "I'm Mark." And I remember just going, I know. So like, not only do I know because you were just on stage, but also I know who you are and I'm obsessed and I've read a lot of the books, etc. And he said, "What do you do?" And I was super, young in my 30s and my early 30s. And I was like, "Oh, I'm a coach and a speaker." And I did a little hair flip. And he was like, "That's nice. Everyone's a coach and a speaker. You must write a book." And I was like, oh, in my mind, I had I've never taken a writing class. I never went to college. I'm not a writer. I had all of everything that people might be thinking right now. That's not my bailiwick. I can't do this. I can't do this for these 77 reasons. But I just kept asking questions because the other side of my monkey brain was going, "While you've got him, ask a few questions." And I did. I spent about, I don't know, it was probably maybe 10 minutes, but it was 10 of the most impactful minutes. just asking questions. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave me was, if as a speaker, I had a presentation that I had given over and over that people really enjoyed, and I said yes. And he said, well, go write that down and turn that into your first book, which I did very poorly because I had neither mentorship nor guidance, but I had a fair amount of common sense. So I did it okay. But of course, looking back now, I think there are no copies left on earth. I think I've eradicated or burned all of them. But I had quoted Jeffrey Gitomer, who wrote the Little Red Book of Selling, in the book. And as Providence would have it, as luck would have it, not very long after I got that first copy of that very awful, ugly, horrible, not done well book, just saying, I had occasion to have dinner with him with a bunch of other people. And of course, I was like, oh, hey, I have a book, which a lot of people do, right? They don't know that it's ugly and horrible. So they're super proud of it, doing their own hair flip. And I'm in this limo with some friends. I lived in Vegas, so we went everywhere as groups in a limo, right? It wasn't that fancy. It wasn't that big of a deal. But I remember like whipping my purse out and getting my bag and going, hey, Jeffrey, I quoted you. And I handed him the book, and I remember him just reading the book. And if you've ever done a minute on the treadmill, it's a really long minute. So he's reading my book, and this is like a treadmill minute, and he's not saying anything, and he's looking at it, and he closes the book, and he says, I hope this podcast allows a little swearing, because he said, you're a good writer, Honoree. And he looked right at me and said, you're a good writer. And I was all like, I'm all ready to just, I'm ready to do hair flips all up and down Las Vegas Boulevard. And he goes, but this book is shit. And I was like, oh, okay. He said, you need help, you need guidance, and I'm going to help you. And he introduced me to his graphic designer, and he suggested very directly, because he's from Philly, right? So he was just like, you need an editor, like you got to clean this up. Like this will never do. Right. And so I rewrote that book and reproduced it, and it became my do-over first book, Tall Order, 7 Master Strategies to Organize Your Life and Double Your Success in Half the Time. This right here is the 10th anniversary edition of that book, in a different size with a different cover. But that first edition of Tall Order, which the original book was not titled thusly, I'm just saying, bad title, bad cover, no editing. It was bad formatting. I was captain of the Hot Mess Express. So when someone makes those mistakes, I have compassion, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And there was no one that I knew to talk to, right? I just was like, oh, I'll just figure it out. I'm not a real author. I'm not a real writer. I used to say I'm a lowercase W writer, not an uppercase W writer, until one of my friends said, you have 9 books. You're a capital W writer. You're a great writer. Keep writing. Like, own that. Thank you, Deborah Kuntz, who is a very well respected fiction author. Nevertheless, that was a turning point in my life and in my career, because at the time I was still, in some instances, explaining what a business coach or an executive coach was to people. Now it's very commonplace. So before, it allowed me to establish credibility for something people didn't know very much about. Now I think it's extra important for people, because everyone is a business coach, and everyone seems to be an EOS coach too. Everyone seems to be using someone else's book to market their business, which is all fine and dandy. Sometimes you want to do that, but I really think the flex, the mic drop, is when someone asks you, do you have a business card? You can say, well, I do, but I also have a book, and I do it 3 times a week. And every single time it's someone I haven't met, they're like, you have a book? Can I see it? Like, yes. Is this for me? Yes. Can I pay you for it? No. No, because all of the reasons, right? So that's the story of how I wrote and published my first book twice. The first time, not so great. The second time, a lot better, because I had guidance and input and someone smart to guide me through that process.
That's fantastic. And for the good news for everybody listening is Honoree's gone through this giant learning curve, and she took what lasted a long, long time, and she only took a few minutes here to explain it. But in reality is the rest of us don't have to go through that unless we choose to. And we would choose to by not following the plan, right? It's always a choice, right? There's nobody forcing you to take this class or to do this stuff. And so it is not such a shameless plug here for Honoree and her businesses, but she does have, you must write a book. I have these books. You must market your book. I have that one actually sitting right next to me here in my hand. And the workbooks that go with these. The key here is that there's also an online course called Publisher's PhD. So it's not a matter of getting one or the other. If you're really serious about this, and there's a measurement, there is a metric that I could offer as a measurement on how to measure whether you're serious about it or not. If your book is to help your business, how important is your business to you? If your business is really important to you, then your book, if it's important to your business, it can't be any less important than your business overall. So do you make investments in your business? Do you hire the best people if you're hiring them? Do you get the best services? Do you build the best products? Do you offer the best services? Why would you write a book halfway or less? So you're speaking to somebody who's doing this live in real time with Publisher's PhD, which you can get online, and we'll have it here in the information that'll go along with this podcast. You get in, you sign up for that, and everything you need is there. And the great thing is you could go back and look at it over and over and over again because you're going to need to, because there's so much good information. There's no way to retain it. And plus, while you're writing and getting ready to market and doing all these other things, you have to go back because you have the opportunity to get it right. And you actually have access to Honoree also as one of her customers/clients. So you start as a customer if you just start there, and you become a client almost instantaneously. And it's a wonderful thing. And this is my first book, and I could promise you that unless people just don't like what I wrote, the content, that Honoree has no control over, but the content. But what she does do is she makes sure that it looks right, and it's got its on mission, it's on point, and that everything that makes a book successful inside and out is there. And so people should look at this and not ever believe that it was my first book ever, where Honoree was talking about her story, where her book looked not so desirable.
The reason Publishing PhD exists is because I wrote You Must Write a Book, and people were writing me and asking me questions and asking if there was a course that I could provide for them. So I created the workbook that goes with it and the course, and all of that goes together because there is so much, and there is so much that can be done ineffectively when, if you do it effectively, it really is a force multiplier.
Well, what I was going to say is not everybody has the time or energy to even want to write their own book. So to your point, Phil, you said, you get the best people to do all the best things for you that you don't have time or energy or know-how or the time to gain the know-how, even though Honoree's got this awesome publishing PhD training program. You might not have the time to even do it or take the course. So what are some other ways that somebody can actually get an awesome book that's going to work for their business?
Well, thank you, Brianna. I also offer a bespoke publishing service for people who have more money than time, or they understand that investing in their business is a wise option for them. And so I do 4 different sizes of books, everything from a small 5,000 word book up to a full 70 to 90,000 word book. And what happens there is that the author's time all in on the project goes from hundreds of hours, which I think you could attest to that, Phil, writing your book and putting it all together can take hundreds of hours or 100 hours. Let's say 100 hours. We don't want to scare people. Down to between 8 and 20 hours total, because working with a ghostwriter, which is the very first step after we figure out the job of the book. So job number 1, before ever putting pen to paper, is we figure out what the job of the book is. What is the job of the book for the author, and what is the job of the book for the reader? And then the author and the ghostwriter work together to the tune of about 10,000 words an hour. So depending on the size of your book, it's going to be 1 or 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, 4 or 6 hours, or 8 or 10 hours to get all of the content that's needed on the part of the ghostwriter so that they can go off and write that book while you are still busy building your business, generating clients and generating business. So the folks who hire me for this are people who tend to make more money than less, or they have they're transitioning from one business to another, and they understand that investing upfront time is money, right? And so the rest of the process is shepherded by me. Someone said, "How is that possible? How is it that I spend so little time?" And it's because there's someone who does spend all the time, and that person is me, right? So I know what to do to publish a book professionally. And also, I'm just going to add 2 more things: the optimization piece, which is creating the author reader relationship so that you do get those clients and customers, so that by the time they have finished the book, those people that are the right clients for you are primed to get you to the monetization part, which is maximizing the effectiveness of the book and creating those conversations with prospective clients.
The one thing you said, optimizing the readership and all those little things. I've had the pleasure of being around you for the past 2 years. I'd say 1.5. We're almost sitting there, sitting in that 2-year mark. And I had spoken to someone else about their book. They had published it, self-published through Amazon, and they were a little frustrated with how things were going and wasn't even showing up. And it was like I had all these little tidbits in my head that popped up in my head from being around you and being around the people that we're connected with, that I'm like, holy moly, it's one thing to write a book. It's another thing to market your book and get it to where people are actually reading it. So again, you can spend hours and hours and hours writing this book, getting everything together, and then there's no one there to read it. And you have figured out what that magic formula is through Amazon and all these other places and spaces where people are looking to read. So just that piece alone is so valuable that you don't really understand it until you're in the world and you're in that space of just the amount of knowledge that you have and just the little parts and pieces that it takes to get you from the beginning to the end, where people are actually purchasing your book and you're receiving revenue from it. You've actually created a revenue stream in multiple places. Multiple
Or
streams.
many.
Right?
Yes. And that's actually my favorite part of the process. Although I love, hitting the mark with a book cover and making sure the formatting is on point and doing all of those pieces. My favorite is working with the author. And that's part of where those hours come in. We spend some time together discussing how they're going to monetize the book. How can they turn the book into money? Because most people think, well, how many books do I have to sell to earn back my investment? If I'm buying a course or a course suite, if I'm buying, if I'm paying for the book design or the editorial, those things can be, an investment, right? All of this is an investment in the business, and you're expected to get an ROI on that. How many books does it take? How many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop, right? Well, it depends, right? So the magical part for me, the fun part for me, is analyzing someone's business and coming back with a marketing plan. And I'm doing a mini book with a gentleman that's coming out the end of July. And his book will probably be 55 pages. It's a 5,000 word book. So it's right in the sweet spot of 5,000 to 5,500. And I sent him a marketing plan and he printed it out. He said, the marketing plan's 21 pages. And I said, yes, it is, because it's my job to guide you to the process of turning your book into money. So that's where Publishing PhD leaves off, and Book Marketing Mastery and Building $1 Million Book Business complete the trilogy of the courses. Just like you must write a book, you must market your book, and you must monetize your book. There's a journey that people can go on with their book. It's not just, oh, I'm going to write and publish a book and then I get to say I'm an author and get the halo effect of that. It's actually effectively publishing your book, effectively marketing your book, and effectively monetizing your book is going to set you apart from anyone else who says that they do what you do. And so, Phil, you're going to see this very soon where, someone will meet 3 sales coaches, but you're going to be the guy with the book.
Right. And I'm excited about it. I've been excited since day one, and the excitement has never waned. And I'm looking forward to those results. I'm looking forward to having you back with us again when we could actually talk about them and you could say, this is what happens. Because the one thing for our listeners that I do want to get here is we always, Honoree, we always promise everybody that by the time they've finished listening to the podcast, that they will have takeaways that they could utilize right away in their business and in their life. And I'm sure that people have got many takeaways from here. The one thing that I would like to present to everybody out there is do not let all this detail scare you away from doing anything. Honoree will always start out by coaching us. And I say coaching, not teaching, because there's a difference. And the coaching is, just listen here and pay attention. This is what she's basically saying, much nicer than I said it. And is that, what do you want the book to do? And if you want the book to bring you notoriety, if you want the book to help you build your business, then you need to understand that before you start doing anything else, because what is it going to be? If simply you just want to write a book so you can say you have a book or you feel good about it, that's fine, as long as that's what you want it to do. But don't let all these steps scare you away, because it's just going to make it better. What's the satisfaction, or where's the satisfaction with birthing this book baby and then not nurturing it to grow and not to grow, right?
It's not your baby. It's not your baby. It's your business asset. It's no baby.
Right. See, that's what we're talking about. So we can't thank you enough for your time here today. You are a person with time that is in demand, and you have chosen to share your time with us here today, and we're thrilled and thankful, grateful.
Well, I have to say that it's Monday as we record this, and Monday mornings are sacrosanct. And you two are such a blessing and a light in my life. And I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful to know you. I think the world of both of you. And it's been my pleasure and honor to speak to your audience. And I hope we really did help somebody to decide, like, okay, I think I can do this. I want to do this. I'm going to explore the paths that are the options that are available to me, and I'm going to lean into it. And I just want to say the one more thing about don't let the steps scare you. If you knew what you needed to do to get your degree in something, or you knew what you needed to do to get married and stay married, or to have children, or to buy a house, or to sell a house, or to do anything, we probably would all just still be like living in a 1-bedroom apartment. Like there's so many, we'd be single and living in a 1-bedroom apartment, because if someone said, here are the 4,000 steps that you need to do in order to be successful in life, I think we'd all just, get some potato chips and watch Friends reruns and be done with it, right? So just take it one step at a time, get one question answered at a time, write one word at a time, and pretty soon you're going to be on the other side of it. The time is going to pass anyway. You might as well start the initiative of writing your book and get all the way to the other side. And of course, you've got a great community of people who will support you every step of the way.
Well, thank you. And what is the best way for our listeners to find out more about you and more about your offerings? What's the best way?
Yes. So I think you're going to put a link in the show notes for everyone. I will direct them to honoreecorder.com. And on the front page of my website, there's a free 8-day Write Your Book challenge that starts to walk you through the process of some of the things we talked about today. So honoreecorder.com. And if you want to go right to the challenge, it's honoreecorder.com/8-day challenge.
Thank you very much. And Brianna, what's the best way for everyone to get a hold of us?
Well, everyone can go to beentheresoldthat.com. And you can see where the podcast is shown on Spotify, on Apple, and then you can connect directly to our websites. My website is Achievant, ACHIEVANT coaching.com, and set up a discovery call with me. And Phil, you can click on his picture and his link will go to beentherecs.com, and you can touch base with him as well.
Thank
Is
you
there
very
anything
much.
else you would like to add, Phil?
Nope. I just want to once again thank Honoree and thank all of you for listening. We wouldn't be doing this if you weren't there, so we appreciate you very much. And until next time, good selling.